him and I.
Kind of disturbing because like some of the things that he's frustrated about with Christine, he did to me. Oh, he wants to work on it with Christine, but not me.
It's funny.
What?
Mary's like, he wants to work on it with Christine, but not with me. And it's kind of hard to not say, well, you cheated on him and she didn't.
I did say that. Meri did not have a physical relationship with somebody. It was the catfishing thing where she had an emotional affair.
Hey everyone, it's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Welcome back to my channel. It's Thursday, January 19th, 2023. It's another day and another Brown child, this time Mykelti and Tony Padron, Mykelti Brown, the daughter of Cody and Christine Brown, have spoken out about Meri, Christine, their dad. It was interesting. I had one of my followers send me a bunch of clips from a live stream that they hosted over on their Crowdfest streaming website that you can share with viewers and watch things with them. And they were apparently watching the final episode of Sister Wives from season 17 and reacting to it. And what I saw was pretty telling. First of all, I was like, did Cody send them to make this video after Peyton came out against Meri?
They don't stop. Not gonna lie, your dad was not likable this season. I know we've actually heard a lot about that, about how dad was kind of, I don't know, people say portrayed as the enemy. I think that's the best way to describe it. He's kind of portrayed as the enemy this season.
Is it? I don't know, man.
That's what a lot of people have said to me.
Someone sent me an article.
Yeah, we did hear that there was a lot of things that he said. There was a lot of things that happened. We've kind of heard like rumors here and there. So it's there's a reason why I don't watch the show. There's a reason why. It's because it's hard. It's not easy seeing your family and everything, your dad, your mom get talked to this way or talk this way. It's definitely not an easy thing.
And then another part of me was like, are they getting paid by Cody? Is this real? And then another part was like, they really just revealed that. You know, it's hard to know right now because a lot of the Brown kids are speaking out. And I noticed in my comments when I shared some of these clips that a lot of people are really annoyed, like super annoyed that they're using these paywalls to share their information. Like fans feel like they have to pay them now for information about what's going on in the family. And it upsets them because they're like, well, we watched the show. Why should we have to pay you? Now they're being called grifters in my comments, which is wild because a couple of weeks ago, it was like all fans just like loving them. And I mean, a mix. There's people that are critical, but then there's also people that love specific people on this show. And now it's turned into, oh my gosh, they're all a bunch of grifters because you've got Gwendolyn, you've got Peyton, and you've got Mykelti. I will say this though, that Peyton Brown is not making content that he's getting paid for. He's actually got like a TikTok, which I don't believe is monetized. And he doesn't have like a YouTube where he uploads videos, and he doesn't have a Patreon. So there are two that have Patreons, and that is Mykelti and Tony and Gwendolyn. Okay, so this video is about some things that she had to say, Tony and Mykelti, about Meri. And it was interesting because it's in response to some complaints that Meri had about the way that she was being treated in her relationship with Cody and the way that Christine was being treated. Like, he made the decision to end the relationship with Meri without talking to her, she says. And Cody was mad at Christine for ending the relationship without talking to him and saying that they were divorced. And she felt like it was an unfair treatment. And that conversation got Mykelti kind of riled up. Mykelti was in high defense mode of her father, and she does have a pretty complicated relationship. But when I was watching the clips that were sent to me, the one thing that I took away from the whole situation was that I learned that neither one of them watched the show. And so because of that, they don't know what Robin and Cody are doing on the show, and they don't know how that's impacting other people in the family. And so if they only are seeing what they know in real life, and they're not seeing sort of the way that it's portrayed on the show and what's happening on the show, they don't really understand why fans don't like Cody and they don't like Robin. In fact, their qualification was that the show needs a villain. because shows need villains and they need people to not like people. And so it's really not Kody and Robin that are bad. It's just that that's the drama for the show. And I can understand, like, they probably see both sides in this because it's their parents that are going through this. But at the same time, I think Kody's behavior, at least what we're seeing, and they did remind us that a lot of these filming episodes are like hours of footage that are drilled down to a few minutes for the best sound bites, which is really what reality television is. But at the same time, like, I think Kody does a good enough job on his own without having to like literally create a villain in the story, because honestly, the way that he acts is just so atrocious, you know, and so fans are responding to that. So let's dive into Mykelti and Tony. Are they the next Jessa and Jed Duggar damage control? You know how Jim Bob and Michelle use Jed and Jessa? Well, Jessa not so much anymore, but they use Jed now, and now James. Yeah. Are they the new damage control for Kody Brown? Meri did what with the catfisher? Yeah. Okay. So before we dive into today's topic, can you do me a big favor and give this video a thumbs up? Also, subscribe to my channel if you have not yet subscribed, and turn the notifications on so you know when I go live or new content loads. And leave some comments if you have something to say. Okay, so this live stream was last night, and it was on their Crowdfast. It was on Crowdfast, and I believe it was through their Patreon. And so their patrons were able to watch this, which was then sent to me by one of the people that watched it. And I was like dumbfounded by the whole situation, because I was like, whoa, I can't believe they're doing this. And then the other part of me is like, is this going to violate their contract? Are they allowed to say the things that they're saying? And it's always unique to get different perspectives here. But this one is interesting because Mykelti really does love her dad. And nobody is to say that you can't love your father. But, you know, some of the things that she's excusing in his behavior, I think she's taking his side, not maybe taking into full picture how polygamy and plural marriage played a role in the choices that were made by all parties involved. So when things got heated in this was when Meri started talking about how Kody seems to do things differently. Like, he wants to work things out with Christine, but he doesn't want to work things out with her. He's decided that the relationship is over with her, but he's mad at Christine for deciding the relationship was over with him. And she didn't think that that was fair. And Mykelti's response was that Meri cheated because she had an emotional affair with a catfisher that was a woman that pretended to be a man, and that this affair was not quite as innocent as Meri made it seem.
Meri was given the real option of quits. Meri was given the option of quits multiple times.
She's not a prisoner.
No.
She can leave whenever she wants.
Dad told her multiple times, even on the show itself, that, hey, it's not working out. You can go. I know that we're not working out. I'm like, she's always had the door open. She's the one that decided to stay. The door has always been open for her to leave.
So before they dive into the depth of the catfishing affair, she was speaking to a question about how Meri felt like it was disturbing to her that Kody wanted to work things out with Christine, but not work out things with her. And she also said that it was unfair that Kody had made the decision that it was over between them and hadn't consulted Meri, and he was mad at Christine for doing that to him. And their response was, well, the relationship was over. It had been over for a very long time, and Meri was told it was over, and she was the one that decided to stay. It wasn't a door that was open for her and him to get back together. The door was open for Meri to leave, and she just didn't go. And they further expanded on that by claiming that it was Meri that basically ended the relationship because she's the one that decided to carry on this relationship with this guy online who turned out to be a woman. And it was behavior that happened in this relationship that hurt the family. It wasn't just that she was having an emotional affair. There was apparently intimacy that was happening in this relationship through phone calls and texts.
Meri did not have a physical relationship with somebody. It was the catfishing thing where she had an emotional affair, and there is a difference between an emotional affair and a physical affair, but Mariah heard them on the phone having intimate conversations over the phone. Mariah heard them have intimate conversations over the phone. And if you're sexting or verbal sexting or whatever, that's cheating. That's still cheating. It's hard to have trust.
If it would not have been a girl pretending to be a guy, But who knows what could have happened? We don't know. But
Okay, so according to her, and I just want to preface this that she used the wrong name for Leon, the child of Kody and Meri, who now goes by the name Leon. I believe this was one of the only times she misnamed them. I don't know if it was intentional or not. Some people, when I shared that clip, were furious about that. I don't know if it was intentional. I can't say that because from what I watched, that was the only time the name was misused. So it could have just been like she wasn't even thinking about it. All of that aside, she says that Leon had heard Meri and this catfish having intimate conversations and that it wasn't just this emotional connection. There was like intimate things happening on the phone and in text. And that could explain why Leon was so angry at their mom for such a long time because of what they heard. And they never really told us on the show what was said and why Leon was so mad. Leon made it seem like it was that they told the mom, this isn't real, this is fake, what you're doing is wrong. But they never said that mom is getting freaky on the phone with this catfish. And to the credit, they also said that, if this would have been a man, maybe she would have left him. And Meri has said in the past that, she considered all of her options when all of this was happening. But so in Mykelti's mind, well, because Meri cheated, then she's the one that actually ended the relationship. So for her to try to compare her to my mom, it's just not the same. Lots of people in the comments were furious with her for implying that Meri cheated, given that Kody has three wives on top of Meri and that he cheated on a daily basis. He just called it plural marriage and polygamy. And they said that the double standard was astounding. Other people pointed out the consent factor of they consented to this agreement. Other people argued that there is no consent in polygamy, so therefore Meri didn't have a lot of other options and she likely stayed due to her faith. Whether you think it's cheating or you not think it's cheating, they seem to believe it is, and that seems to believe that is a talking point that's coming from Kody, and I don't think it takes into account what led Meri to a place where she felt like she had no other option than getting involved in a relationship like that. Whether you agree with what Meri did or not, Meri has lacked the accountability or responsibility of what she's done, and she's really made it seem like she was the victim in all of this. And while she was a victim in this, she did do this. So you can't really escape it in that respect. And they said that's really the difference here. But then later on in the same live stream, she started talking about the problems that extended within the marriage between Kody and Meri that were exceeding on top of this affair, why it was so not a good relationship. And it had to do with the way that they treated each other and what she witnessed and what her siblings witnessed between Kody and Meri.
Never in my dad and Meri's relationship. I was never there. But I do know from being told by many of the kids and many of the wives, I didn't see it myself, but they weren't physically abusive. I know that I think that they each at one point everybody saw that, okay, there was no hitting. They never hit each other. That's not dad, and that's never been dad. He's not a physical abusive person. Verbally, emotionally, I think that's both of them in their relationship. I think that they were both unhappy in their marriage, and they might have been emotionally and emotionally and verbally abusive to each other. But as far as like hitting and anything like that goes, no, there's none of that. I think we didn't ask my other siblings, hey, did our dad ever hurt you? Did our mom ever hurt you? Did any of the moms ever hurt you? Kind of thing. And dad was never abusive. So in the emotional sense, maybe, but they did it to each other. I know that for a fact. I've seen them do it to each other. So there's a two-way street when it comes to the abuse that person or relationship had. Which I know that comment just barely that I said is going to end up somewhere on some magazine source or some YouTube channel.
So this was in response to a part of the episode where her dad was like literally yelling and screaming at Janelle about the boys. And Tony didn't like the fact that Kody was screaming, and he said it was wrong what Kody was saying. He didn't agree that Kody was screaming and yelling, and he doesn't think that anyone should be speaking to anyone like that, and that he would never speak to his wife like that. There was some times during this live stream where, like, when I was sent these clips where I'm like, Mikelty has a loyalty to Kody that maybe Tony does not, and that Tony holds back a lot of his feelings because of his marriage with Mikelty. So he didn't like the way that Kody was acting. And when it comes to the verbal back and forth, she doesn't really address the stuff with Janelle. In fact, she said that Janelle really didn't deserve it because it wasn't her fault what the boys were doing, because the boys were adults and she can't control her adult children. So it was not fair for her dad to take that out of Janelle, because Janelle was literally compliant with the COVID rules. It wasn't her fault that they couldn't stick to it. You know, they were working, they had other things going on. And she said, you can't like ground your adult children. That's what Mykelti had mentioned. But when it comes to the verbal screaming and yelling, you know, the question was about her mom. Like, was your mom aware of this? Like, did she know that she was being emotionally and verbally hurt by your dad? And she didn't really say anything about her mom, but instead she talks about how her dad and Meri had a very tense relationship, had a very caustic relationship where they yelled back and forth, where there was emotional and verbal back and forths between the two of them, and how she doesn't believe that it was just her dad's fault. It was also like the part of both of them. And while I do agree that it takes two people to tango when it comes to a relationship and when it comes to fighting, I think a lot of times the women in these polygamous groups, they don't have a lot of power in their relationships. And, you know, they're pushed to such extremes with their husbands sleeping with other women, having children with other women, spending their time with other women, constantly looking for other women, that they are so desperate for any level of attention, and they're so probably jealous, angry, and have resentment towards their spouse based on their behavior, that it would be hard to have a healthy relationship of any kind. Meri seemed to have this desire to fight back, which I think we've seen that Meri does fight back. She doesn't hold back. There's a lot of times on the show where we've seen her get heated, and, you know, Kody seems to like recoil when that happens. Really, in a situation like this where the man controls and has all of the power, it's hard for me to call Meri an abuser of Kody in the respect of their relationship. I don't see it. Maybe she wasn't as nice to him because he was out screwing all kinds of women, and he is having kids with other women, and, you know, that would make me, I would not like that. And even though these women picked it, they're not really picking polygamy because they think it's their only other option, because their only way to get into heaven is through this celestial kingdom, is to go through plural marriage. So for them, they feel like it's their destiny and their eternity and their faith. It doesn't mean that it's like they like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're enduring pain and horrible feelings for the benefit of the man. So to me, this felt a lot like Kody's narrative of what he is telling Mykelti about Meri. But I did think it was interesting that this is another angle of Meri is an abuser, right? Meri is a yeller and a screamer. And I did witness Meri yelling, and I did witness these difficult conversations between them. I did see them mistreating each other. And then she went on to say, like, I asked my siblings, have any of the wives or our dad ever hurt you physically? And none of them said that our dad did, which Peyton said is false, because he said that his dad paddled him. But she didn't say anything about the wives. So she said nothing about if Meri had any culpability or was physical. Though she did mention that she does plan to address everything that's been going on with Meri and the allegations that have come out. She said that she does plan to speak her truth and her side of the story so people know what happened. But it does seem like Mykelti doesn't have a lot of love for Meri. So Mykelti could be theoretically coming out with a version of this. And then I thought it was funny that she said, and that this is going to end up on YouTube or in the papers or something, or on some YouTube channel, which I thought was ironic, because it's like she's doing these behind a paywall, knowing full well that even behind a paywall, it's going to get out. So obviously some people that heard that when I shared that over on my Instagram were like, oh, she's doing this just to get attention or make money or grifting, or she's selling out her family. Listen, I don't know. You know, they didn't make money on the show, really. The kids didn't get paid. And so I'm all supportive of them doing whatever they want to make their money. I think it's fair to fans that they have to find out through leaks, through these, you know, through the people that do pay, and then they leak it to bloggers and to magazines. I mean, if you want to pay, you can pay. It'll probably get out anyway, which I think is kind of the point of what the fans are saying is like, why don't you just like put this on YouTube in your own story, and then you could get ads and people don't actually have to pay you for the information. I can't explain like where, I don't really have an opinion either way. If they want to have a Patreon, they can have a Patreon. But we have another video coming up where she actually talks about her dad and how she doesn't think he's a great father today, and explains just how horrible life was growing up back when they lived in Wyoming. But for this video, what are your thoughts about Mykelti blaming Meri for the end of her marriage with Cody and calling Meri the abuser of Cody and a cheater? Tell me in the comments below. Bye, guys.